After my mother died, I discovered she sold me as a husband to a wealthy family. Now my wife and I must decide if our love is real. I, 32M, never thought I'd be the type to post here, but I'm desperate for perspective from strangers who don't know us. 2 weeks ago, while cleaning out my late mother's attic, I found a box of letters that turned my world upside down. Mom passed away 3 months ago after a brief battle with pancreatic cancer. The loss hit me hard. She was my rock after Dad died when I was 12. She raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, and somehow still made it to every school event. We were incredibly close right up until the end. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. We met at a mutual friend's wedding, where she was a bridesmaid and I was a groomsman. The connection was immediate, at least that's what I thought. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 8 months we were engaged, and we married 6 months after that. Everything seemed perfect. She's brilliant, driven, beautiful, and we rarely argued. Sometimes I wondered what someone like her saw in me. I'm not unattractive, but I'm certainly no model. I work as an engineer at a mid-sized firm. Decent money, but nothing extraordinary. My wife, however, comes from a wealthy background. Her parents have a vacation home in the Hamptons and another in Aspen. They paid for our wedding, helped with the down payment on our house, and generally lived the kind of life I wasn't accustomed to. Still, I never questioned our relationship. Until those letters. Mom was meticulous about keeping records. The box I found contained correspondence spanning nearly 2 decades, all organized by date. Most were mundane: birthday cards, thank you notes, bills. But tucked into the bottom of the box was a manila envelope labeled "Regarding Son's Future" in my mother's tidy handwriting. Inside were letters exchanged between my mother and my wife's father dating back to before I even met my wife. The earliest was from 7 years ago, about a year before I coincidentally met her at that wedding. The letter from her father was formal, almost businesslike. He explained that his daughter had recently graduated from her MBA program and was being groomed to take over the family business. However, they were concerned about a reputation issue that needed to be addressed before she could step into leadership. Apparently, my wife had been involved in some kind of scandal during college. The letter didn't specify details, just mentioned indiscretions that could damage the company's image if she remained single too long. Her father wanted to find her a respectable husband from a good family, someone with a solid career who wouldn't embarrass them, but also someone who wouldn't interfere with their business or lifestyle. Someone like me. My mother's response shocked me more than his proposition. She agreed to the arrangement, suggesting we meet at our friend's upcoming wedding, where she knew I would be in attendance. She described me as hardworking, loyal, and desperate to have a family of his own, like I was a puppy up for adoption. There were multiple letters detailing the agreement. My wife's family would ensure our financial stability through discreet assistance, and my mother would convince me this was a genuine love match. One letter even discussed how to make our meeting seem coincidental. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the final letter, dated just a month before our wedding. My mother expressed concerns that I might discover the arrangement, but my future father-in-law assured her that his daughter had come to appreciate the practical nature of their plan and would ensure I never found out. I couldn't breathe. 5 years of memories replayed in my mind with this new, terrible context. The chance meeting. How quickly she seemed to fall for me. The generous wedding gift. The help with our house. All of it planned. All of it fake. For 3 days, I walked around in a daze. I called in sick to work and barely ate. My wife noticed something was wrong, but I deflected, claiming I was still processing my mother's death. In reality, I was trying to figure out what to do with this information. I needed to confront her, but I was terrified of the answer. What if our entire marriage had been a sham? What if the woman I loved had never actually loved me at all? Update 1. It's been a week since my last post. First, thank you to everyone who commented with advice. I've read every response, even if I haven't had the emotional energy to reply. I confronted my wife last night. I'd rehearsed what I would say, but when the moment came, all my careful planning dissolved. We were having dinner, takeout, because neither of us felt like cooking, when I simply placed the letters on the table between us. I found these in Mom's attic, I said. I need you to explain. She looked confused at first, then picked up the top letter. I watched her face as she read, searching for any sign of guilt or remorse. Instead, I saw shock, then anger, then something I couldn't quite identify. Pain, maybe? Where did you get these? She demanded, but not in the defensive way I expected. She seemed genuinely bewildered. I explained about cleaning out Mom's attic, finding the box. She read through each letter carefully, her hands trembling slightly. When she finished, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I had no idea, she whispered. I swear to you, I didn't know about any arrangement between our parents. She proceeded to tell me her side. Yes, there had been a scandal in college. She'd dated a professor briefly, which violated university policy. When it came out, the professor was fired, and her reputation took a hit. Her parents were furious about the potential impact on their business image. After graduation, her father became increasingly controlling, pressuring her to rebuild her image through a respectable marriage. He vetted potential suitors, but she rejected them all. Our meeting at the wedding, she insisted, felt genuine to her. She'd had no idea it was orchestrated. "That's why Dad suddenly stopped pushing those awful men on me," she said, the realization dawning on her face. "He'd already decided on you." I wanted to believe her. God, I desperately wanted to believe her. But 5 years of what I thought was real had just been called into question. How could I trust anything she said? "If you didn't know," I asked, "why did you fall for me so quickly? Why did you marry me when you could have had anyone?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Because you were kind," she finally said. "You never asked about my family's money or connections. You talked about your mom with such love. You made me laugh. I fell for you because you were exactly what I needed after years of superficial relationships. I don't know what I expected, confession, perhaps, or elaborate lies. Not this raw vulnerability. Not tears streaming down her face as she realized her own father had manipulated her just as much as my mother had manipulated me. We talked until 3 in the morning. She called her father, putting him on speakerphone despite the late hour. His shocked silence when she mentioned the letters was telling. He eventually admitted to the arrangement, but claimed it was for her own good. "We needed to secure your future," he said. "We found someone suitable who wouldn't interfere with the business. It worked out, didn't it?" She hung up on him. We're both reeling. 5 years of marriage built on a foundation of lies. Not our lies, but our parents'. Where do we go from here? Is anything we felt for each other real? I've moved into the guest room for now. We both need space to process this. More updates to come as we figure this out. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update. The situation has evolved in ways I never expected. After our initial confrontation, my wife and I spent several days barely speaking, passing each other like ghosts in our own home. I stayed in the guest room, unable to share a bed with her while sorting through my thoughts. She respected my space, but left notes, memories she had of our early relationship, moments when she knew she loved me, things she appreciated about our life together. Little reminders of what we had built, regardless of how it started. Meanwhile, I've been analyzing every moment of our relationship, searching for signs of deception. Did she really love me? Or was she just playing a role? Was her affection genuine or performance? The questions tormented me. For days ago, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of documents. "I want you to see these," she said when I walked in. They were financial records, her personal accounts, separate from her family's money. She'd been saving substantial portions of her salary for years. She had more than enough to live comfortably without her family's support. "I could have left any time," she explained. "I stayed because I wanted to." She also showed me emails between her and her father from the past 5 years. In many, he questioned her choices. Why she chose to work rather than take a ceremonial position at the family company. Why we lived in a modest house instead of using their money for something grander. Why she didn't leverage her connections more. Her responses consistently defended our life together, our choices. In one particularly heated exchange from 2 years ago, she wrote, "I'm happier with him than I've ever been. If you can't respect that, then perhaps we should reconsider our relationship." It wasn't proof she hadn't known about the arrangement, but it was evidence that whatever her initial reasons, she had genuinely chosen our life together since then. That night, we talked for hours. Really talked, in a way we hadn't in years, about our fears, our disappointments, our hopes. She admitted feeling pressure her entire life to be someone she wasn't for her family's sake. I confessed my insecurities about deserving her. "Would you have married me if you'd known about the arrangement?" I asked. She thought for a long moment. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But I would choose to marry you now, knowing everything I know." Yesterday, she cut off financial ties with her parents. She returned the most recent gift they'd sent us and informed them she wouldn't accept anything further. Her father called, furious, but she stood firm. "My marriage isn't a business transaction," she told him. "I'm choosing my husband." Last night, for the first time in weeks, I moved back to our bedroom. We're not magically fixed. Trust has been damaged, not just in each other, but in our own perceptions. How much of what we believe about ourselves and our relationship was influenced by others' manipulations? But there's something freeing about having the truth exposed. We're rebuilding on honest ground now, seeing each other clearly perhaps for the first time. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update. This will likely be my final post here, as we're moving forward with our lives. Many of you asked about my mother's role in all this. It's been the hardest part for me to reconcile. The woman who sacrificed everything for me also tried to orchestrate my future without my knowledge. I've spent countless hours trying to understand her motivations. 2 weeks ago, I received a letter from Mom's attorney. Apparently, she had left instructions for it to be delivered if I ever mentioned finding letters in her attic. She knew this day might come. In her letter, Mom explained that after Dad died, she became obsessed with securing my future. When the opportunity arose to connect me with someone from a wealthy, established family, she convinced herself it was what Dad would have wanted for me. She acknowledged it was wrong, but wrote that she never regretted it because she'd seen how happy we were together. Sometimes wrong decisions lead to right outcomes, she wrote. I hope someday you can forgive me for overstepping, but I will never apologize for fighting to give you every advantage in life. Reading her words brought both pain and a strange sense of closure. My mother wasn't perfect. She was human, flawed, desperately trying to protect her child the only way she knew how. As for my wife and I, we've started marriage counseling. Our therapist says it's unusual, but not unheard of for couples to discover their relationship began under false pretenses. What matters more is what we choose to do now. We've established new boundaries with her family. We see them occasionally, but maintain our distance from their attempts to control our lives. My wife has been promoted at her job, a position she earned through her own merit, not family connections. Last weekend, we took a short trip to the place where we had our first real date, a small oceanside town 3 hours from home. We walked the same beach, ate at the same restaurant. But this time, we spoke honestly about our expectations, our disappointments, our hopes for the future. No facades, no family pressures hovering in the background. I can't say I've fully processed everything yet. Sometimes I still wake up wondering if any relationship can be truly authentic when everyone brings their own baggage and motives to the table. But then I look at my wife, really look at her, and see someone who chose to stay even when she had every opportunity to leave. Whatever brought us together, fate, manipulation, or blind luck, we're choosing each other now, eyes wide open. And maybe that's all any of us can really ask for in the end. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support during this strange chapter of our lives. Moving forward, we're writing our own story now.